Good evening, everybody. It's great to have you with us this evening, and I know some of you have been waiting. Thank you for those who came last night as well, and we've had lots of emails come in, and some of you may have been wondering about the questions you asked, and we'll be, I have retrieved those. And so we'll be going through those, and I'll go through that in a moment. But tonight, well, my name is Liz Blake, and I'm in Victoria, of course, but I'm a Melbourner. And tonight, I'd just like to let you know what's going on tonight. We're going to go into more detail on the voting strategy. Last night, we laid a foundation, and for some people, it's like, yeah, probably knew most of that. But it's very important in learning for us to layer it and not just dump stuff. So put your seatbelt on a little bit for tonight. We're going to do what is called, I'm going to present what I'll call level 1 and level 2 voting. And it'll be depending how interested and motivated you are. So when it comes to that, I'll warn you. Now, this is about, the voting, we're working with Victoria's peculiar, let's call it a peculiar preference system. We will give you steps according to the level that you're at, steps that you can take. We'll be expanding on a little bit more on how far the Andrews government has failed this state, and I will give a reason for that. And it is actually needed by friends and colleagues who may view this, and so that they've got something succinct. But there is also a remembering, and it's not pleasant, and I won't give it a great deal of time. It's not fun to remember, but in sharpening our focus to this election, it is important to be clear in what we're fighting for and what we're fighting against. So what we want to walk out of and what we want to walk into. So we also have tonight 2 interviews with 2 eminently qualified guests. They're shorter interviews tonight with the state president of the Democratic Labor Party, Hugh Dolan, and we've got him because that is the only representative on the left that represents a moral left. And so we're providing a balance that I believed was necessary. Also, Sheikh Mohammed Salim, who is Secretary of the Board of Imams Victoria, he has a very interesting discussion, and they will discuss key consequences of by this government overreach through outlawing key values and freedoms. I hope some of you did some homework last night. Leave it in the comments if you have. I'd love to see that later. And I'm just checking if everyone is there. So questions, just write them in the comments. We'll retrieve them later, and maybe at the end there might be a little bit of time to give some time to questions. If not, and we finish early or something, I'll do a session or a very short, like a short video or an email to address any questions there. Right. Why the Victoria must change government? Because the why is very important, and then we need to look at the how. The why is the endemic shades of corruption, let's just say that, how this Labor government really works, how power is centralised around a politicised Premier's office for multi-billion-dollar projects started and operating outside of accountable systems that are supposed to safeguard the public. A little bit of context and framework is, the top issues that to bring to mind when we're talking to our friends is, and particularly in the inner city and northern Melbourne, the top, which are quite relevant. Is the top issues are integrity in politics, the health system and the environment, cost of living, financial stress, very tied to the general anxiety that is around. And it is a challenge to talk to people, but there also is a softening. and of course, higher interest rates, etc. Regional areas, they're feeling it in the health, regional growth, housing and roads, access to healthcare. None of this is new. I'm just summarising. Hospital system disrepair and has been disrepaired all through Dan Andrews from Health Minister right through Premiership 2 terms, and his dismissive attitude towards the multiple reports that have been sent in prior to COVID about that state, and all, of course, the school shortages, and with the mandates, thousands of people losing their jobs. I'm not surprised. I mean, how can anyone be surprised? And the growing issues are invasion of private space, the outlawing of the expression of faith, and dealing with religious and private schools. So the number one priority for Victoria, I think we can agree, is to unseat, and it was said last night too, was to unseat Dan Andrews from Mulgrave. If he's unseated, he can't be, from his own seat, he can't be Premier. And so we want to, so this is just a brief over-the-top introduction here. We want to support inner Melbourne and North Melbourne, that's like inner city Melbourne and northern Melbourne regions for with the candidates, the freedom candidates and the values candidates and the small parties, that even the parties that are okay, support them in well, obviously everywhere, but in those areas. And of course, we want to keep talking to the small parties that we're working with, freedom, values parties, etc., and keep encouraging them to be, thanks for sharing, but encouraging the candidates in the small parties to be really sort of cooperating while they fiercely compete. So a little short exercise. It's a very short exercise. So to unseat Dan Andrews, here's actually the picture of what is there now. Now, all through Victoria, not everything has been locked in, but this is what there is at least now. And you can see this is to familiarise ourselves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candidates competing for Mulgrave. And you can see there, and very soon I'm going to bring Monica on and she'll go through some voting, some things as well. But you can see there's 2 very good freedom values candidates there, Aidan McLinden and Ian Cook, excellent people to choose from. And just to preference there. And then you've got the big 3. So just to show you briefly there, that's the kind of thing you could be looking at. Not a difficult thing to focus on. That's not a hard one to focus on. Okay, I'd now like to bring on Monica Smith. I'd say there's probably nobody that doesn't know Monica Smith, certainly on this channel, in this forum. Monica, I didn't get to introduce her last night. Monica is a terrific person to work with, terrific human being, but she's the founder of Reignite Democracy Australia, the founder of Reignite Freedom. She's very, very globally networked and a humble person, but very competent, highly competent and clever, and but really, really well networked at high levels and with grassroots, a very good spread. So I always love listening to Monica for that reason. So Monica, I'd like to welcome you and hand over to you.
Thank you, Liz. That's a nice introduction, but yes, that's very kind of you. But look, I'll get straight into it. I actually wanted to address one of the questions that someone said. So Joan, she asked, how do I talk to people about the election? How do I let them know how important it is? Well, it's obviously different for everyone, but and actually, I don't have that many people within my close networks that actually aren't like me, so I don't actually have that much experience talking to people like that, Joan. But how about you try this, and maybe you can email Liz and let her know how it goes. And I think this is a great strategy for door knocking as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But how about you ask them this? let's say their name is Luke. Well, hey, Luke, what is important to you? And just listen. Listen to what they say, because I bet you they're going to say things that are important to them that Labor have failed in. So if you've got something to work with, if they give you three things like living expenses, interest rates, paying my mortgage, or whatever they give you, you can work with that, right? So in your head, you're like tick, 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 whatever they tell. I mean, if they tell you that they love control, they love tyranny, and they love living expenses going up, well, then you're going to get stuck. But most likely they're not going to say that. So I reckon ask them the questions and then build on what they say. So anyway, I will then go straight to what I want to talk about. So for those of you who weren't here last night, I'm just going to quickly recap. And honestly, if you listen to the next 2 minutes of what I'm going to say, you already know more than most people in Victoria. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen just really quickly so that we can talk about it easier. Okay, so basically, this is a lower house ballot. Now, obviously, it'll look a little bit different because this is just an example, okay? But it's a small piece of paper and you must number every box, one being your most preferred. I would personally be putting the Freedom parties first, then the Liberals directly after the Freedom parties, and then the rest of the whatever you want to call them, the Victoria Socialist Party, the Greens, the whatever else will come out from the woodwork. So I'll just say that again. In the lower house, that is your district. There are 88 districts. In the lower house, you must number every box starting from 1. Put the Liberals after the Freedom parties, so that if none of the Freedom parties get in, at least the Liberals will get in instead of Greens or Labor or the Victorian Socialist Party. And then that's it, done, finished, easy. In the upper house, which looks like this, sorry, it's a really bad quality version here, but this is what the upper house looks. Now, these are people like David Limbrick, like Fiona Patton, like Rod Barton. These are people that you know. This is the upper house. So you can choose whether to vote above the line or below the line. Now, I'm just going to reiterate again. You've got to get out of your head what happened in the federal election, because it's different. If you're voting above the line, you only vote 1 above the line, and your preference flows with the way that the party you voted 1 for has decided for their preferences to flow, which we'll go into. And if you vote below the line, you must vote at least 1 to 5. Now, remember, below the line, which is here, so let's say, for example, this is the Liberal Party, A, okay? So if you wanted to vote for the Liberal Party, you would put a 1 here and you'd be done. You don't have to worry. But if you want to vote below the line, you would vote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Let's say that's Liberal. And then if you like this party next, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc. So you can actually vote for each candidate separately. You only have to do 1 to 5, but you can do more. What I'm going to be doing, again, I'll just reiterate really quickly, is I will be putting all the candidates of the Freedom parties first, and then the last candidates will be the Liberals. Now, so you would have heard last night, when we're talking about above the line up here, right, the preference flows, we're talking about the party that you vote 1 for. Every party has to have a group voting ticket. Now, remember, these will be at the polling booths. They will be at pre-polling booths. They'll be all over our website. Liz will email them to you, so don't worry. So you don't want to vote 1 above the line unless you know exactly where your preferences are going, because it has happened before where people would put 1 on a party that is morally, really good, and then for some reason they've made a deal with some dodgy party who they've preferenced second. Now, if 1 doesn't get in, your vote actually goes to a party that you had no idea about. And actually in Victoria, in the crossbench, people like Fiona Patton, Rod Barton, these people that literally ruined our lives, behind Daniel Andrews, they were voted in because of preferences. There are some people in the crossbench of Victoria, those people I explained, some of them got 0.6% of the entire vote in their region. Can you believe that? Literally a handful of people voted for them and they got elected. So this preference situation above the line with the 1, it's really, 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 really important, okay? Now, if you vote below the line, like I said, you control your preferences 100%. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and that's just all I'll say. Now, again, before I move on to the next topic, just keep in mind that there are a lot of people working on the election, and you're gonna have all the information. You're gonna have example how to vote cards. You're gonna know exactly where the candidates are in your area, so you've really got nothing to worry about. The point is that you know the basics now, and that's really good. So as more information comes out, you're really going to know what's going on. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit of civics here, because if you did get educated in Australia, you probably have no idea about this stuff. So I'm just going to quickly go through and explain why it's so important to actually be careful how we vote. Obviously, you guys already know that because you're here. But basically, legislation, this is how it's passed in a really snapshot, right? An idea is had, and it can be had by a lobby group or a member of parliament or whatever, but it needs to be taken up by someone, obviously. They then draft the bill. Now it goes to the lower house. Now, the lower house is the 88 districts. It's the little piece of paper. That's the 88 seats that are available. Remember, the person who gets the most seats in that section becomes the premier, the government and the premier. So the bill is created. It goes through the lower house and gets introduced, second reading, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes to the upper house. And that is where these crossbenchers are, Fiona Patten, David Limbrick, etc., where all the real arguing happens, actually, because they don't usually introduce bills. They can, but it's very rare. Likely they are just to block or agree with the bill, basically. Then there's royal assent. And let's be honest, she never, ever, well, I can't remember a time that they actually didn't sign something. And then a new law is created. So that just shows why it's so important, especially the upper house in Victoria, especially is well, no, everywhere actually, because you could have one seat that makes all the difference. Imagine if Rod Barton was a second David Limbrick or or one of these freedom candidates that you guys know about. The pandemic bill would not have gone through. It is as simple as that. So although the lower house is very important because it forms government and it introduces bills, the upper house, especially in our situation, being the underdogs and trying to change things, if we can just change the balance of power by one person, then we're going to have much better restrictions on what the government can do. So the crossbench, just as a definition, the crossbench refers to the group of members who are not members of the government or opposition. So the government right now would be Labor. The opposition is Liberal, if you can call them an opposition, but you know what I mean. The major party that didn't get in. They may be independents or members of minor parties. So you understand that they're not tied to a major party. So now I just want to quickly go through some important dates for the election, so you know exactly what's coming up next. Okay, you know when to get your seatbelt on. Hang on. All right, so Wednesday, the 2nd of November, nominations open. I know it sounds like it might be a bit late for that, but no, the registrations of the parties are already done, obviously, but the individual candidates actually, that's when they put in their nomination forms. The postal vote applications open. Don't worry, we'll let you know about all that. Voting centre location locators are available. So, you know, actually about this before I move on, it's impossible for anyone to make a perfect how to vote card at this point because the nominations have not been finalised. So you're really going to have to stay tuned on the 2nd of November or the 3rd of November. We're going to update you. They really crunch it in there, don't they? Anyway, Monday, the 14th of November, early voting opens. Now, there is a date in here that they have missed, and that is on the 13th of November by, I think, 6 p.m. or something like that. That is when the group voting tickets must be in. So first thing on Monday morning, we will absolutely publish those group voting tickets everywhere. Just to remind you, the group voting ticket is if you vote one above the line, the preference flow that goes with that party. Okay, so just to remind you. So they did miss that. Saturday, the 26th of November is D-Day, guys. So I hope we're going to be celebrating and not doing something else. Either way, we're going to do our best. So now, how do you find who's running in your area when the time is right? So right now, there's quite a few different, like I said, Joel Jamal, me, and some other people are working together to bring things together. So there's going to be lots of options. But I'll just start off. There is a website called freedomarmymelbourne.weebly.com, and they actually, at the top here, they have electorates and they've got freedom-friendly parties, freedom-friendly candidates. So that will be updated as the time goes. But as a general rule, you can always just go into Google, and if you click on I know we don't really like the ABC, but, you know, sometimes. So they've actually already got the people that are, some people that have already nominated. But as this goes on, obviously more and more people will be added to that. Now, RDA also is putting, it looks pretty shoddy right now because it's not finished, but makeyourvotecount.com.au. We're going to have upcoming events here. We're going to have all the parties, and there's going to be a link to volunteer with them, to print their flyer, go to their website, watch their promo video. We have also created a generic flyer. This is the front and this is the back. I won't go through it now, but the PDF version will be printable from our website. So basically what I'm saying, I'm going to stop sharing. Basically, my messaging, just to finish off, basically, my messaging is that it's great to join a party's volunteer network. It is great, but not everyone has the time to do that, or not everyone wants to. But by this time, every single one of you watching has at least one friend who is freedom focused, right? One friend who cares about the election like you do. So get that one friend and just start doing your own volunteering. You don't need anyone to hold your hand. What we have been through over the last 2.5 years, if you can get through that, you can knock on a door. It's not going to kill you, right? Now, on that website I just showed you, there's going to be the generic flyer for you to print. Then there's going to be the flyer for the party that you've decided to support. Now, I'm going to say that you should not letterbox drop 2 different party flyers. It's confusing, makes no sense. Don't do it, in my opinion. Pick a party, pick a team, do the research, and go with it. You can print the generic one, you can print theirs and put it together, because the generic one doesn't have any party information on it. So that is what I would say about, you know, what to do next is really to decide which team you're going to go with. Like the thing is especially with the federal election, we felt like we needed to help everyone, and you know, we want to be inclusive, and we want to you know, help all the freedom parties. But the matter of the fact is, you've got to vote for someone, and if you give 25% of your attention to 4 different parties, it's not going to really help anyone. So my suggestion, and again, I'm just going to say it once more, pick a team and support them, because they need you. And maybe down the track we can find a way for these parties to work together so that there's only one freedom focused candidate in each district, and so every volunteer can help them. Wouldn't that just be fantastic? So again, tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m, actually Liz and I are hosting a Q&A with the 6 of the freedom focused parties in Melbourne. It will be live streamed on the Reignite Democracy Australia YouTube channel, and also on Rukshan's Facebook channel. The whole point of that Q&A is it's crowd-driven Q&A, which means that the questions are not preempted. They cannot plan for it, so it's going to get quite interesting. And the whole point of that event is to hear from the candidates ourselves and make a decision. Who are we going to go to the pre-polls for? Who are we going to knock doors for? Now, I'm going to finish on one thing: door knocking. I've been speaking to, like, letterbox dropping is great, and some characters do not have the ability to do door knocking. So I definitely understand that. I'll knock on anything, so that's just me. But so if you can only do letterbox drops, do letterbox drops. But if you've got a friend, and if you can go together door knocking, don't go alone. I don't think that's safe. But I've been speaking to experts, and this is the best strategy. Knock on the door, and like I said at the beginning, what is important to you? So you would say, "Hi, my name is Monica, and I'm here on behalf of X party. I just want to know, what is important to you?" What? This stranger wants to listen to what I have to say, right? Write down when they're talking. Just write down. It doesn't even matter if you're writing down exactly what they're saying. Just write something down so it looks like no, but you should just write down what they're saying. Anyway, and then you have the flyer of the party that you're supporting, and you say, "Thank you so much for telling me what's important to you. I'm supporting X person from X party. Here's their flyer. Have a lovely day and good luck on vote. Let's hope something happens good on election day," or something like that. Now, there's a two reasons why this is a fantastic strategy. It's not mine, it's from someone else who's an expert. The one reason is you're listening instead of talking. If you open the door and you're like, blah, 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 this party's so great, blah, 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 you just sound like another salesperson or another TV ad, and it's boring, right? So you're listening more than you're talking. That's why you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. But the second thing is it's quick. Okay, if you start yabbering on to someone and then they talk back and then you have all these discussions, but it's going to take you 25 minutes, right? But you want to knock as many doors as possible. This isn't about quality conversation. This is about knocking as many doors as possible. If you've only got 8 hours, so you ask, what are the 3 most important things to you? Thank you so much. I'm going to tell that to X person. This is who I'm representing, and see you later. End of story. That is what the teals did. The teals did this. Do not get involved in discussions. Don't get involved in policy too much. Just tell them to go to the website. Don't get complicated, because you could say something wrong as well. Anyway, that is my lasting comment. Door knocking is what we missed in the federal election. We did not talk about door knocking at all. I thought it was too hard. I thought we would have to do all this training, but we actually don't. It's actually easier than I thought. A lot of people are already doing it. We definitely mastered the letterboxing. We did not do door knocking. The teals smashed it. They smashed the door knocking, and look what happened. So if you've got something, if you've got a free weekend, guys, I know that the Mulgrave area has a lot of doors, and if you really want to get rid of Dan, you should drive on down to Mulgrave, print out your own flyers, and go with it. Now, I'm going to finish. I am finishing, Liz. My last thing I'm going to say is I understand that getting out on the streets on your own or with a friend, there is no instant gratification unless the door knocking is really successful. But there's not this protest feel. There's not this, good on you, mate feel. It's private. No one knows you're doing it, especially if you haven't signed up. So it's internal. So I understand it's really a lot harder to get out there. But when we see the election results, and you can say that you had something to do with it, who cares about the instant gratification, right? All that matters is that you go home that night, you look in the mirror and you say, I did something today. And I promise you, you'll sleep better and you'll wake up more fulfilled, and you'll do it all over again, because it just feels good to do something. So I wish you guys the best of luck. I can't wait to see you on the ground. Remember, tomorrow night, 7:30 on the YouTube channel, Liz and I will be hosting a Q&A. It's going to be really interesting. There's never been anything like it. Thank you so much for having me, Liz, and I'm going to bow out now. See you guys.
Thank you so much, Monica. That was a terrific grounding and very, very practical help there. You took the words right out of my mouth about driving to Mulgrave. And it's true. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the revisit the voting. Okay, so then what I'll call level 1, and this is what Monica was talking about too, and Topher also said, talked about, but I'm going to extend it just slightly, that just to make it just even more effective, if you can do that. So the sort of the rule I'm going with, or the rule of thumb I'm going with, is that vote below the line unless. And that unless is if your your party's party's group voting ticket, which is like a how to vote card, but if their group voting ticket is aligned, like you can see all the people on the preferences there, or they're pretty aligned. You know, if there's no glaring contradiction, okay. If there's no glaring contradiction, you can just vote above the line. And, you know, if you're happy with what they've said, but you do need to know that. I know I'm really sort of pressing that point there, but otherwise vote below the line, and that's the real big thing in Victoria. And what I'm going to extend this to is vote below the line numbering 1 to not only 5, which is the minimum, not only 6, finishing with the Liberals, which is what we said last night, but actually you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to all the small parties that are okay, in the order that you like, of course. But you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many they are, and to all of them, and then finishing with a Liberal. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Liberal 9. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Liberal 7. Any of that. So I'd call that level 1 voting. And please put it in the comments there if that's at all complicated. At the least, it's vote 1 to 6 with Liberals at the last, but your vote will work more reliably if you just vote actually for all the small parties that are good or okay, and then put Liberal at the last one. Now, I'm going to bring this slide, okay, let's go here. I'm going to now talk about, there we go, there. People who are registered, everyone who's registered for this will get these slides so that you've got something to refer to that's easy. It's big writing and it's easy to put on a kitchen table and chat about with the family. And I'm going to do that with my grandkids very soon. But level 2 now, voting. Now, this is going a lot further. This is for a very robust vote. Now, I'm only going to spend several minutes on this, or a few minutes on this, but if your eyes start glazing over at all, please go and make a cup of tea and come back in 3 minutes. Okay, please do, because you don't need to be confused above what we've already said, but there you can actually do a lot stronger, and we deserve that chance as well, because there are people who are very motivated. Okay, so the first thing is, remember that white ballot paper. That big white ballot paper. We're talking the upper house, of course, and just, in fact, let me just give you a little. Pretend that's it there. Okay, now you can see the thick line. Okay, ignore all those letters and all those numbers for now. Just zone out from all of that. Okay, but you'll see that would represent columns of about 20 parties or something, however many parties are competing. That's how many there will be. Now, I'm going to go back. Now, if you'll just, in your mind first, visualize every single one across the top line, across the first row, I should say the first row, would have numbers in them. From the parties the small parties you love, to like, to the ones you can't stand, and the big 3 parties. So there would be a vote. Now, this is a very robust way of voting in Victoria. So there would be a number in every box along the top row. That's why it was important to, when you look at your candidates at your parties, to say, oh, all these, they're okay, and these ones couldn't have them in, just wouldn't have them in government for anything. And so we divide them, and then there's the big 3. And so in your mind, visualizing just that top row that's got numbers in there, and they'll be in the order that you want naturally. Now, once you've done that, and you can review this, using that above pattern, you'll notice in this picture here. Okay, so there's a couple of steps. If you do this methodically, you can put a very good vote in. And as I said, if you're zoning out, come back in 2 minutes, okay? So working methodically, first vote for so going along that top row only, vote for every freedom, values, okay parties, all the small parties. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, how many, until you run out of the small parties that are okay. And then you'll find a column of Liberals, and that's that one there. You can't see why, but I know why it is. There it is there. There's a column of Liberals. And in that column, I'm on point 2 here, so Liberals or Liberals National, a big part, one of the big parties. And when you get there to Liberals, that's you continue numbering down. So you don't keep going across, you go down. So over here again, you'll see there's all these random numbers. I don't expect you to absorb the numbers themselves, but you'll see that, so that's Liberal there. I can tell this because I can tell it. But you see 12, 13, 14, you start going down. Okay, and they're in order, 12, 13, 14. There's no advantage of doing anything more clever or complicated than that. And then let's go back to here. Then continuing, then after the 3 down the Liberals column has gone, you can continue numbering with the ALP column, another big party. So I can tell from here, from 14, it would go to 15, 16, 17. Okay, and so that would have been the ALP there. I didn't want to put something up here that had all the party names because the writing is tiny and it gets very confusing. So you've numbered down the ALP, 3 down the ALP, and down 3 deep, and then you continue numbering across the top, because remember, we want to put a number in everyone across the top. This is not a law, this is a strategy, okay? And the only ones left will be all the worst parties and the Greens, okay? And now you might think, oh, which one's worse? You know, well, that's up to you. But in this model, it's then continue numbering across the top row all of the worst small parties that you would never want in Parliament. And then last, continue with the Greens column, where I'll show you here, and that would be one of, it would be the last one. That would be the last one there. Okay, and now if you can't stand, I'll just look at my notes so that I say this correctly. So if you can't stand if you can't stand the order that we've put 0.345, and you think, oh, I couldn't put our ALP, you know, higher than the Greens or something like that, you can move around 0.3 or 4 or 5, but don't move around 0.1 or 2. Don't do that. Okay, so 0.1 or 2, they're the ones that have to stay. Now, the only reason that graphic here is a little bit more complicated is that in real life, when we see the ballot papers, there could be a couple of bigger, smaller parties like the UAP, One Nation, or, you know, bigger parties where they've got a few candidates, and you can actually go down the list with them too, amongst all your other good and okay parties. Okay, so now if there's any questions on that, I can re-present that or answer that on in another forum. Okay, so I'm going to pull that down now. Okay, I say now, so just recapping from last night, because there are people who are watching individual nights and separately, and then others who, of course, who are watching them sequentially, but just touching very quickly on the parties for values, morals, and morals, and freedom. In the bold, they're the ones I've selected, and fairly most of us would agree. Most of us would agree with. These are all the small parties so far, but we've got the Liberal Democrats and Catherine Cummings. You know, there's some ideology differences, a little bit of differences there, but, you know, I've put asterisks there because they, in my opinion, they really stood up for us, so they really deserve to be in that. That's my opinion. Okay, so they're the ones that would be parties for values, morals, and freedom. And then there's a list there. I don't have to. This is just a resource. There's a list of currently registered parties there. Okay, so I'm going to remove that now. So I'll be very interested if you found that meal of the level 2 voting like, whoa, okay, that's interesting, but I've got to go over that again, and that's okay. Or if it's like, wow, that was really, really cool. Or if it was like, oh, no, I'm skipping that one. And that's all okay, because we've got level 1 voting as well. Okay, now some resources for values voting. I won't belabor this. I was going to share my screen, but it's not working for some reason. So, but all on the PowerPoint there's all the links there that you can refer to. But looking into party values, there's very good, if you scroll down the Australian Christian Lobby, ACL page, they've got a list of Christian or conservative candidates. Now, not everyone's Christian, but if you want conservative candidates too, they're identified there, and that's still updating, as of course. And then there's the voting record of the Liberal National Party and crossbenchers, how they voted in some of that appalling legislation in the last couple of years, and before COVID too. But see how they voted. So that's in your research. You can do that. Remember, you only have to research. You only need to research the candidates in your area, in your district or region. Okay, and those resources are there for you too. A couple of resources are. A couple of the websites there are still updating and formulating their the pages that I'm just referring to. Okay, now I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on why. Do you know what? I spent about 2 days researching this, like full days researching why Victoria must go all out to change government. And I have screeds of notes, and then I condensed them, and I'm looking at them tonight. I'm thinking, I can't go through all of that. So I'm going to send you the condensed version, but I'm going to give you a small overview because, well, you may not want to remember, and that's okay if you don't want to. But for those of us who want to or want to share this, I will be sharing a snapshot of, and it's not, and this has nothing to do with COVID, by the way, a snapshot of the lack of accountability. This is factual, the lack of accountability using public funds, with the huge social media and the advertising. Second to the total Commonwealth, Dan Andrews spends second in the whole country, above all other way above other corporations, companies and corporations. He spends second in the country on advertising. That's just unbelievable. So do we really want that back in? And very scary is the anti-democratic system that he runs in very comfortably. Let's say that a radical centralized power and a government of secrecy. And I am actually not, I'd love to go through this, but we will run out of time and I don't want to. And it might be too painful, but the lack of accountability using public funds, the politicization of the bureaucracy, there is some detail in here that's very, very interesting, and you'll just see why no wonder things are breaking. No wonder things are so bad, because of who gets the say and how they've been employed. And it's a very, very close, very, very close-knit thing. Talking about the chosen few and big conflicts in top jobs, and the government of secrecy and the cost blowouts. It was fascinating to me to actually do the research into the infrastructure projects. I wanted to know more about that. Of course, we're talking about the suburban rail loop. That's the biggest one ever. When I saw the story of the conception, it blew my head away. It blew my head. I just thought, it was how it appeared. Like that idea, they decided that idea without any big business case or anything, because that would have taken years. But they decided that 2 months before the election, and then it became an election promise. 2 months for a total city transformation thing, which a lot of it wasn't, there was components that are not costed, never have been. And there are 3 stages. I'm just it's crazy to me. It's just, I've got to show you this. Well, that's the map there. Now, you've got to see this. This is stage 1, goes up something like that. Stage 1. Now, the Andrews government thinks, he's expecting to deliver stage 1, and that would be trains running by 2035, finished in 2050 or something like that. And then other governments. So this is a loop, but he'll do one string, he thinks. And then there's another part, stage 2, and then stage 3. Now, guess what? I live in stage 3. I hope the western suburbs and the west of Melbourne are really, really thinking about this. So some facts really matter. And this has now been costed. There's a huge amount of secrecy around the costs. And but it's now been based on the Budget Office, Premier's Budget Office, 175 billion. 125 billion and plus 75 in running costs, it would be. So that's 200 billion. And it started off at 35. It beats me. Words are failing me. So that is a brief rundown, and I don't want to depress you, but I felt it was important. And it's really quite amazing. Some of the specifics are very, very interesting. So we're just sort of pulling this to. There's a couple of things that would be terrific to go through. I'd like to actually, before we next, I'd like to go to a short interview with a wonderful, really a great little interview with. I'm going to add this to the president of the Democratic Labor Party, DLP, yes. And Hugh Dolan. And so I'm just going to bring him on here. I'd like to welcome Hugh Dolan to the program tonight. He is State President of the Democratic Labor Party. So welcome, Hugh. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Liz.
So that we present balance for the viewers, and because you and Hugh is State President of the only party on the left spectrum standing for a morals and values-based society, we believe it's important to have a representative of that centre-left side as a voice in this education process, and that also reflects his personal convictions. So, Hugh, what is a major issue driven by a major issue in Victoria, driven by the current government that violates morals and universal values? And what consequences do you hear from real people out there who are impacted by this issue?
Well, Liz, there are several, okay, but this afternoon I'll just pick one, which is a Safe Schools program. Now, I've got actually a recording from Hansard, where a mother of a 10-year-old girl in Sunbury, and this is recorded in Hansard, this is fact, on the 5th of April of this year. The problem was that her daughter, a 10-year-old little girl who apparently writes to the Tooth Fairy, plays with dolls, had a project where she had to go home and ask her father about his erections and his ejaculations. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, the Safe Schools program, we consider this to be morally wrong and bankrupt. It has nothing to do in our education system. It appears to be some focus of a far mad left where they want to, in a sense, pull apart who we are in a society, and they're targeting our most vulnerable, little girls and little boys. I've got another, I had a individual, a woman ring me up to say, look, she's concerned with her daughter with this Safe Schools program, that they're trying to have her identify with up to 73 types of gender. And she said to me, I want the school to get their fingers out of my daughter's panties, unquote. So that is my position. I want to end this travesty. I want proper education. I want holistic values.
Yeah. Thank you, Hugh. The thing is, I don't think, well, from what I speak to people and hear around too, that it doesn't seem that most people are aware of the reality of this. So, you know, now you've spoken strongly. You obviously have personal conviction. So, but some of the viewers in this program might say that your stance is a bit extreme or even bigoted. So forgive me, but that's, you know, some will say that. So in just a couple of sentences, what would you like them to know that might help them reassess their view? Maybe.
Well, first of all, I support free speech, absolutely. So they're welcome to think what they want to think, and they can articulate whatever they want to say. I'm not going to be offended. However, I'd ask them not to be offended by my point of view and the point of view of a large section, I guess, of Victorians, because we're going to have our say at this election in November.
Thank you very much for that, Hugh, and for giving us your time and for speaking from your heart and being a representative. And I know you are president of a political party, which was actually a difficult decision to bring on, because this is a non-partisan program. But
further to this, I'm also a daddy with 3 children.
Yes.
Who all go to high schools, and they have had great difficulty dealing with this push, this LGBTI push, and also the desexualization of women.
Right.
Because women are not women anymore, are they? Yeah. They're what? Lactating or birthing people. Yeah. This is wrong, Liz. I am personally motivated, and thank you for this chance to be on camera with you.
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you for adding that, because I think that's valuable, that no matter what part of our political spectrum is, we are parents, grandparents, uncles. Thank you. I hope you got something out of that I particularly enjoyed it. I'm going to go straight through to the last speaker that we've got, the guest speaker, and then I'd like to, I've got something on my mind that it's really, I've been thinking about this for a few weeks, and I haven't done anything with it because the election needed to come first. And so if you'd like to stick around, if you're able to stick around after this last speaker, but it's very good. I've been looking forward to this last speaker. So I will bring him on now. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Sheikh Muhammad Salim, Secretary of the Board of Imams of Victoria.
Thank you, Liz.
Well, welcome, Sheikh Salim. As the question I've got for you is to do with the Victorian Equal Opportunity or Religious Exceptions Amendment Act 2021. They're long mouthfuls. But as a religious leader in Victoria, how has that Victorian Equal Opportunity or Religious Exceptions Act affected different faiths in this way? And what are the key conflicts and penalties faced by this legislation on religious schools?
Thank you very much for the question. The Religious Exception Bill has impacted enormously the faith communities, schools who operate according to their faith traditions. And as we understand, the schools, for example, have to employ people who profess to be a atheist, people who have a gender dysphoria. So we can't discriminate them based on gender if they are to teach subjects other than the religious subject. Now, the schools are forced to take people who have different sexual orientation, and the schools may not agree with the notion of employing them, but they cannot discriminate on the basis of their sexual orientation. Now, the whole concept of including them in the staff, or as a gardener, or as a teacher, or as a maths teacher, or as a PE teacher, or so, goes against the very nature of the religious schools. First of all, they built the faith-based schools or religious schools, but is known as schools with particular religious affiliation, is to teach the children or give them an opportunity to grow up in that particular religious notions or religious traditions. Now, by forcing people to employ or keep the teachers who are probably existing but transitioning into a different sexual orientation, then you are forcing the schools to change its very nature of religiosity. This is not really acceptable, and the parents probably will be upset about it, and the schools, to which they are sending their children, they may take out, and probably they will opt for homeschooling because they wanted their children to be exposed to their own traditional religious values. So that in that sense, the schools will be in a situation, or in a catch-22 situation, if you want to say, that in one where they have to comply with the government requirements that they can't discriminate, but at the same time, they have to comply with the parents' desires to have their children exposed to only the religious tradition and not otherwise. And it also goes against the freedom of religion itself. In the Attorney General's Department website, you can see there is a guidelines on what is the freedom of religion. And freedom of religion means that we should not be forced to teach our students that is not comply with, or that is not in accordance with our religious teachings. You can't force them. So in other words, by employing people of different sexual orientation, the schools have to probably force the children to accept them, or normalize this, what you call it, this notion of sexual orientation that is that we have to accept, that is against our religion, but at the same time you have to make it in such a way that it is being looked at as a normal thing, which is forcing the students or the children, faith-based children, to accept something that is against their religion. So that way, it is go against the true freedom of religion as well.
Right. Thank you for that explanation. So yeah, that was quite comprehensive. Okay, now I've got a quite a difficult question, part to the question now. Now looking more broadly to the people in the community who are of not a faith or a formal faith, how does the loss of this religious freedom impact the whole of society? Like, why should they care? So what are the real life costs across society of losing the particular flavour that various religious schools bring?
Okay. It's a difficult question to answer. First of all, you know, the notion of morality can change. It could be a universal morality or religious morality, you know, humanistic and, you know, notions of morality, whatever you wanted to term it. So it can differ. What we want to look at it is we all wanted to coexist without being accepting. We can be united, but at the same time, we no need to agree on everything that the other person is saying. So if the people of no faith have certain beliefs, it doesn't mean that we have to accept those beliefs. And but we learn to accommodate and live as a united Australians, all of us together. And that is what it means, that, you know, being a united Australians. But it doesn't mean that we have to accept certain thing that goes against the very basic notion of religion itself. Maybe people think that there is a lot of interpretation and so on. As far as Islam is concerned, as the Abrahamic religion is concerned, sexual orientation to same-sex people is totally is prohibited. That is one of the very basic thing. It is like God exists or not exist. So, okay, we don't have any problem with the people who are going against our traditional values, but at the same time, forcing us to accept that their view. We are not forcing anybody to accept their God exists or not, or this particular notion is correct or not. But at the same time, we should not be expected to accept those type of notions from our side as well. So at the moment, we wanted to accommodate a minority view at the expense of the majority view.
Right. Thank you very much for putting forward you know, some of your localized views, but in consideration of the whole of society too. Sheikh Mohammed Salim, thank you very much for joining us and for your contribution today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
That's great. I really I thought Sheikh Salim actually made some really good points in there, and you can see that there is a spread across people of faith, and also that there's others not of faith who we share the same sentiments and the same aspirations for freedom and to reinstate values, universal values, and certainly not outlaw them by government. So in drawing to a close, I've got this 5 minutes that I just want to share with you. But before that, I'd like to just remind you that there is a third session I'm going to put on with anything that's new and important after the group voting tickets mid-November have been declared and firmed in. So it'll be about the 14th or 15th of November. I'll do that, and it could be very likely a short session, quite a short session. Also, Joel Jamal, if you're registered with this, which most people will be, you'll get emails and that, because I'm watching out what Joel Jamal is also doing, and he's probably producing a couple of really good things too. And whatever he's got that I think we can use, I'll send out to you as well. So that's terrific. So if you haven't registered for this, if you haven't registered for this, I can't keep in touch. But to get those updates, it's voteyourvaluesin.com. And there is that Cloud Hub group we've got. It's a private group, and I'd love to populate that. There's some people coming across from the Telegram group already, but I'd love to populate that because I'm supporting that with discussion right through to the election, and it will be beyond. So I'm just going to it's my pleasure to introduce to you, I beg your pardon. That was obviously a flick of the finger. That was it. Okay, so I just mentioned before that there's been something on my mind for quite a while. We're coming into election, the election, probably the most important election that Victoria's ever had, and we certainly feel it. And we're coming into it in a time of crisis, and it is special. Now, when I go through this, I want you to remember everything that Monica said. There's hope, and we can do stuff about it. But I'm just going to shift into a different mode now, just for the last 5 minutes. And so we're coming into this election in a time of crisis, and in any time of crisis, and that's crisis is social, it is psychological, and there's a lot of pressure there. There's internal and external pressure. There's the cost of living, housing, inflation. Things are not looking real great. And I don't want to be real scary, but there is government debt at a global scale. And so we don't know where we're heading down, really. It may be waters we've never been through before. And with that in mind, I've been observing, listening, and seeing a need emerging for a little while now, and that need enlarging. And I saw that it was now the time to apply my own personal breakthroughs, and reinvention skills to new needs. So crisis. When crisis comes, we have to reinvent certain things. There's some things that get reinvented, and they need to be reinvented on new solid foundations with new mindsets, new skills, and that. So it's been on my mind, and I've asked the question in one of the emails, said, who's been affected by the mandates? Who's lost your job or career? Who had your career broken or your job broken, or been, like in a pickle, whatever? Who from the mandates? And I got some stories back, and I thought, I know this stuff, but this is really, really heart-wrenching. Careers have been shattered, people are degraded and devalued, years of experience discarded, and they're suddenly second rate. It's sort of hard to get the words out, really, but people, I know there's so many people, and I don't think many of us have families and friends who have been affected like this, and in a powerless, confused, or disheartened place. You know, we never expected this. We never expected mandates. And you know, the fact that they continue through all the state government departments is just unbelievable, and some of the corporations. But now, many people in health, nurses, teachers, and technically skilled and highly trained never expected, you know, like they were trained so well in their profession and their trade, but now they're, you know, they never expected to be skilled and unwanted, valuable, and then devalued. So they were, I know there's a lot of people looking to reinvent and change tracks and that. So what does it mean? It actually means I know that there is a crisis that has to involve a crisis of identity, because I do a lot of coaching. That's my main executive coaching and other coaching and mentoring. That's my main work. And so for some, it will feel like, you know, that it's all been wasted. You know, what's all this been for? And that, in fact, you might feel wasted. And I want to tell you that if that's you, I'm telling you that you aren't wasted, and you don't need to be wasted. But so from personal experience, I've had a lifetime of reinventions. It hasn't been easy. I've had lots of expanding and total flips. And even in the last 2 years, I completely flipped again, and definitely not through lack of persistence, but these were necessary things that had to, you know, that I've reinvented myself a lot. I've learned many lessons, and I've paid a big price for successes I have had and for the failures. You know, I've invested of my own money over $150,000 in professional development, and that's not including university. I'm talking about my own professional development. And I've paid the price, and a lot of it has been, you know, there's the intangible parts. I've learned to renew my mind and how to heal and reintegrate. And I've also learned the highest leverage principles that there are, the building blocks to the future and to success and reinvention. And all my experience, I really feel, has been, as well, I know all that experience has been preparation for this time. I've had massive success in direct selling and a couple of other areas, but educated myself in wealth creation and practiced, you know, the property thing, the real estate stocks trading, options. But most important was the mistakes, you know, and I know the way out, and I know what I won't live with again, and I know now know the only principles I'll live by. And there is a reason for me sharing this with you. I now know why the wildly successful parts worked, and it wasn't the gurus who gave advice, and I know how to find a new way. All this time, right at this time, I've decided to provide some training, very specific training, and take those people who've been affected by the mandates and who want to come forward, to take you past the political furor, past the election, whatever happens with the election, and past government decisions. Because no matter what happens, there's a mess to clean up. And so the training I'm going to do is risk-free, and certainly what I'm going to just tell you about, offer you just shortly, is risk-free. To reinvent, you need to look at options, to make new choices, to build new direction after the election. It's wise. Like, I've been remembering and bringing back some of the issues that are at the centre of this failed government. But my focus in the last quite a while now has been on building, and to rebuild our life is to rebuild on new foundations, as in not what let you down last time, getting out of the problem and finding the solution. So what I'm offering is a 1 day, and it's a 90-minute, okay? And this is initial thing, an initial 90-minute, rev up your reinvention workshop. And honestly, this has been done. I've just put this together so quickly. I haven't built the site for it. I hope to have it done today, but I had literally like half a day to do it, and it wasn't going to happen. So I've thrown together a form, which is in the PowerPoint, and I might actually let me just see if I can find that. There it is there. I'm going to show that form there. That form there, oh, sorry about that. You'll have to copy that. It's an ugly URL, but it is in the PowerPoint that you'll get to notes. But so it's a Rev Up Your Reinvention workshop. Now, this is for professionals and skilled people. 90-minute online interactive and information and coaching kind of style. It's to discover, it's to open the door, discover options, to bring some value to the situation, paths outside the systems that let you down, to take a step to reinvention. Now, if a lot of people come in, I'll divide them into different workshops so that there's, like, if there's doctors, they might go in one and nurses in one and teachers in or something, or in fact, it could be all in together. So we'll just see how that works out. So I'm doing this on the fly. I do have the expertise to bring it together, but I'm just telling you there are options in how it goes, how it comes out. And so if anyone you know, you can share that form with anyone. Look, however many people there are, I can handle. We know how to support a very interactive, very supportive, make it a community at any number of people. And we sure need this. And there are opportunities and there's things that we can do. Okay, so I wanted to hold this. I would normally hold this in very quickly in 2 weeks, but with the election coming up, there's no way, and it would be better for me to have it held in 2 weeks, but there's no way I'm going to interfere with the election. We all need to be out there in Mulgrave and elsewhere doing everything we can do. So I'm not going to interfere with that at all, but I'm going to have this, and it is far off, but I'm going to hold it on Wednesday, the 30th of November. I thought, that's a cool one. No matter what happens at the election, there'll be a few days to get over that. And right, okay, Wednesday the 30th, and it'll be probably in an evening, I'd expect. So for those wanting new career options, guidance, coaching through to the coaching due to the mandates, there is that link, and it's an expression of interest because it's all I could do to just quickly get something out. It's an expression of interest, just saying, it's just like, yeah, I'm interested, name, email, that's it. And there's a couple of little things that I tell you a little bit about it. I literally made that form in 10 minutes, just a couple of hours ago, because I needed something quickly. Now, there will be a cost to this. Now, I run under a particular, I use modelling and not modelling, I'm not going to use that word, goodness. I use a model methodology, and one of the principles undergirding that is actually delivering amazing value. But I do need to put a cost on it, and I'm going to make that $18. But what I'm going to do is, because we want many people to get the opportunity, I'm going to hold that. I'm going to actually put on let's call it an early morning coffee, an early bird, at the price of the cup of a coffee, $5. And I'm going to hold that $5. So when I get information out to you, it will have $18, but $5 and I probably may not ever offer that again, because it's worth a real lot. It's worth in the several hundreds. And I can tell you that because that's what people pay me. What was I going to say? So I'm going to hold that till midnight Friday, the 11th of November. So we've got a few weeks. And so you go collect people, like not collect them, talk to people, share with the people that you care about and that we know are in this situation. And it's just $5 till then, and that'll bring in and help me organise things quickly. And after that, I'll take up to the $18, that extremely expensive $18. So I just really want to thank everybody for staying with us for tonight, for being with us through the program. I'll see you again. And I do hope that, let me just see, I'm just going to put if anyone hasn't registered, which is, because you could be here unregistered, that's where you get everything. And there's that, for registering, there was also that Civics Masterclass, which is very, very good, $87 worth. We've gifted that in partnership with somebody else, Eric Peacock, the creator of that Masterclass. He's agreed to give that to everyone who register. It's very good. And it's an introduction to his excellent civics courses that we'll offer soon. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to bid you good night. yes, I'm going to look carefully at the questions. I'm just going to see if there's any. I'm just going to stay here for about 1 minute to see if there's, if you've got a burning question. I will go through these, but if you've got a burning question that you need answered now, I'm going to just watch this for a little while. This link. Oh, yes. Great. Now that's a good burning question. Okay. So, yes, I will put that in now. Thank you. Oops, wrong one. Okay. I have it. Okay. Just bear with me. Show. I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to, hang on, I'm going to have to, just bear with me. Where have I got that? It is here. I know this is what people don't normally do, but here it is here. We need to solve the problems that we can. I'm a problem solver, and that's what gives me joy. I've got the banner. What am I doing? Okay, it's not the banner. It's the, yes, it is the banner. It is the banner. You didn't guess, this is new software to me. Awesome software, but these have been the first days I've used it. Oh, I got the wrong one. There it is. Yeah, that's the registration. I think that's what somebody asked for. Sorry, that's the form and the registration for this, you know, the 2 nights we've had and all the stuff that goes in the background. That is voteyourvaluesin.com, voteyourvaluesin.com, which I'm going to, sorry about this. I just realised, I know some people have to go. Thank you. It's been wonderful having you. There it is there. There's that form in the link. Yeah, so I'm just going to leave that for a moment, although I think it'll stay in the chat. So I'll bid you good night and have a wonderful night. And I'd love to hear back your feedback about what you've got out of this, not just information, but as a package. I really would enjoy the feedback. I value, not just enjoy, I value the feedback. Okay, see you next time.